At the end of the day, everything comes down to our ability to get people what they want when they want it. And that is such a strong capability. And there's so many things to build around that.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley in partnership with Leumi Tech and sponsored by Hippo Insurance, Turing, Upwest Labs, and Hillel at Stanford. This is one of those episodes where in 10 years I'll look back and say, wow, this is maybe where it all began. We're going to talk about retail and deliveries and micromobility and all of that together and how that's going to change the way we as traditional consumers in our life consume the things we need, whether it's food, electronics, groceries, and anything in between. Meet Omer Orlev, the Director of Retail Sales and Growth at Wolt. Omer is Director of Retail Sales at Wolt, leading Wolt's global efforts regards to its expansion from restaurant delivery to new verticals like grocery, florists, electronics, and more. Before joining Wolt, he served as a commander in a technology unit in the Israel Army, practiced law as a high-tech lawyer in one of the leading law firms in Israel, and spent 5 years in HP Indigo as head of business operations in Indigo's growth team. Omer Orlev, welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I've been waiting so long for this episode. Director of Retail Sales and Growth at Wolt. You're literally working on the thing that I've been thinking about every day as I see thousands of blue scooters riding around Tel Aviv. And I just think, when is going to be the day that I can order anything I want and can get it delivered within 30 minutes without me having to leave the house? And so I'm excited to pick your brain.
Yeah. So actually, that's the vision, right? Exactly that. So hopefully soon. But let's talk about it.
All right, so we'll get to this grand vision. We're not there yet. Right now, I'm ordering about 3 times a day food and the regular things for the house. But share with me a little bit about what your entrance to Wolt and a little bit about your perspective on what's happening here with this consumer behavior that has obviously already been transformed, both due to COVID, but also due to Wolt's entrance into the Israeli market.
Yeah. So funny story. I mean, I worked for HP Indigo as a growth team leader for 5 years, and I decided it was time to leave. And I heard Imri Galai, who was the GM of Israel at the time. He's now in a more senior role. I heard him in a podcast tell about Wolt, and I was like, wow, this sounds really cool. I want to be a part of it. It was Thursday night. I went to my wife. She wasn't my wife. And I said, I really want to work there. She said, yeah, go for it. So I looked at the website. There was nothing relevant. I said, okay, I'll wait. And the following morning, like literally the following morning, I got a LinkedIn approach from Finland asking if I'll be interested to interview for like global head of business development. Yeah. Wait. So that was really a match made in heaven, and the process was kind of amazing. And I started as head of global business development. So even though I was based in Israel, I was supposed to kind of globally look at opportunities that we had on that front. But then COVID hit, and I was just a month in the company. Like I didn't have what to do yet. So Imri came to me and he said, "Look, there's this COVID thing. We don't know what's going to happen exactly." But we know that whatever happens, supermarkets are going to stay open and pharmacies are going to stay open. So can you take a look at working with pharmacies and supermarkets? And Walt's brand is so strong here in Israel. It was so good that I was fortunate to kind of close 2 deals with public companies in like 3 weeks. So the first deal was, so it was like with Paz, for Yellow, for like their convenience store chains, and then like 10
twice,
days
3
after,
times a week for me.
Yeah. And then like 10 days after was with Shufelsal for B Farm, which is kind of the pharmacies. So those were the 2 first retail. We say retail, we say like everything beyond restaurants.
Right.
And that was the first two kind of big Wolt signings across the world for retail. And by doing those, we just learned so much about consumer preferences, about partner preferences, about how many gaps do we have in the app and in the operations and in everything we have that don't fit kind of retail.
Okay,
I mean,
way too many questions I have popping in right now.
yeah.
The first one is, why is it that when I look out my window on Dizengoff, I see 5 Wolt scooters at any given moment? How do you explain that? Is this happening all around the world? Is Israel some, case study that is different, perhaps?
So I wouldn't say it's everywhere around the world, but definitely more countries with this phenomenon. I think in that podcast that I heard a year and almost a half ago when he re-interviewed, we were smaller, but still really big. And he was asked the same question. So if you said 5, maybe, I don't know, they said 2 or 3. But his answer was, we didn't do anything new. We just did everything really, really well. So,
Yes.
like, customer experience is good, service is good, the delivery is on time. Everything around the customer experience is just so smooth and so easy. So I think that's the reason. And to be fair, I have nothing to do with that. Like everything happened before me. But going back to retail, so what was very interesting for us is that in our vision, we said we want to go into like more than restaurants, but it's going to take time and we want to be ready for it. Like we want to change the product, we want to change everything. Not in 2020, we'll see. But COVID just made us do it. And we were like, I don't know. I mean, this doesn't fit. Retail, it should be completely different. But we were shocked by how successful it was and how much did people react to it and just started ordering. So we had like so many people ordering. I mean, it was funny. Like at the time, people were stocking up everything, and there were no eggs in
Right.
Israel. I don't know if you remember. Like April 2020, there was no eggs. Like the best place to get eggs was in Tel Aviv, at least because we were in Tel Aviv at that time, was through Yellow on Wall. So they just stocked every day with more eggs than they ever had, and people would go on and do that. And we ran surveys to see how satisfied customers were, and we were like, this isn't good enough. This should be better. Like we should have a better retail experience for customers. It's just like an MVP that we released. But people were happy. They're like, yeah, it's great. I enjoyed ordering. I enjoyed the experience. Everything is good. Um, so we were surprised. I mean, we have so we started again here in Israel, and then it grew and grew and became from this kind of small anecdote to something that we're going to invest in heavily in the future.
Amazing.
And it started in Israel, but now it's in all 23 markets. We have over 2,500 retail partners from everything from like grocery to florists to bakeries to alcohol stores, butcher shops. And we just launched like in Israel, like a gift shop, like a few gift shops. And going back to what you said in the beginning, when you were thinking, how can I get everything in 30 minutes? That's where we want to go. And we want to help stores of any kind of be available and get access to a lot of customers and also allow customers to get whatever they want in a click of a button. If
I
I have
think,
to
the consumer behavior here is, for me, I can feel how it's going to change my perspective on the shopping experience. One of the things that I hate most, or, I get nauseous when I enter a clothing store. I don't know what it is. It runs in my family and, especially the men. But I'm thinking to myself, if I could order this one pair of jeans and have it delivered to me, and I don't have to commit to this whole buying experience of going in, trying out, this expectation of making it, this big event, then I'm a whole new type of customer that's getting introduced not to just Wolt, but to the whole world. And it just makes perfect sense to me, economics wise, the supply and demand, why every single small business or big business would want to buy into this.
Yeah. So what you're saying makes total sense, but then it also tells the story of how big retail is and how complex it is. I mean, take clothes, right? Like we will get to clothes. Like we will be there at some point in time. We don't know when. But everything around the return process, everything around that is such a big thing. It's such a big topic.
Right.
Right. And it changes everything. It changes how we do operations, it changes the business model, it changes the whole story. Like if you partner with a restaurant and you build a business model based on kind of the partner. Here, there's like, okay, what's the return ratio? Like what percent of customers return stuff? How do they do it? How like there's so many things to consider here. And by the way, that's what I love about my job is that it's not actually one business that we're expanding into. It's 15, 20.
Right.
And talking about like customer behavior. So two things that I have in mind and that we had as a vision. So we said we want to get like butcher shops and fish shops on board. And the plan was if you want to cook something or if you have a barbecue with friends, then usually you need to prepare in advance. You need to go to the butcher shop. You need to think about it, whatever. Like every time me and my friends, we want to do a barbecue, then like, okay, who's going to go to Jaffa and buy? And I'm thinking, no, you do this. And in 20 minutes, you get whatever you want. And I if you're talking about changing consumer behavior, then I want that mindset to be for everyone. So you don't need to plan almost anything. That's like where we want to go. And another example on that is supermarkets. So instead of doing like one big purchase, okay, you buy what you need when you need it, like this, right? If it's cheap enough, then why the hell not? So that's kind of the consumer behavior that we want to generate, and we're starting to see, which is so fascinating and fun.
What I think is most exciting for me, in our discussion is that, up until now, I almost feel like, we've talked about, almost the obvious layers that anybody who would think concretely enough or would take, the basic, microeconomics would get to. But their butterfly effect of this is so great. The way the relationships with small businesses, this idea of warehouses within dense cities, the transition from small businesses to, all of that, we're not even talking about those side effects. And I think, obviously time will tell what happens, but I think it's such an interesting, position to be in where you're at, where you get to even hypothesize how your product is going to completely change the way every player in the market is going to operate. It's pretty incredible.
It is, and again, you're on par. I mean, you talked about warehouses. We already have 3-4 retail businesses that are warehouses that were open just for us. 20 square meter warehouses that are incredible businesses, like incredible, really, really good, and not just like in many markets. And we're seeing more and more of this. And again, in a way, it's like the merchants and the partners, they're more advanced than we are. Like they do it. Like we didn't, before we thought about it, they would go and do it. They would say, guys, you don't understand what you have here. Like you could change like the way people do business. You could change like the way people live their lives. And it's a very, it's like a big vision, right? But it's possible. Right. I mean, at the end of the day, everything comes down to our ability to get people what they want when they want it. And that is such a strong capability. And there's so many things to build around that. And you mentioned that layer, but there's so many layers on top, like brands, companies that want to do D2C, like companies like Unilever, like Coca-Cola, like Nestle. Right. These companies that want to be a lot closer to the consumer, and they can use a platform like us for so many things.
Right.
So really, like, and I'm every day my head is exploding with new ideas and new opportunities, and I wish there were kind of more hours in the day to get to them.
No, completely. I'll give one last example personally, and obviously you can tell how excited I am about everything that I'm observing here. I remember the first time that I ordered from a restaurant, I really enjoyed the meal, and only after I got the food, my friend told me, this is a really high-end restaurant. Like this is like a crazy expensive restaurant. I ordered like a 60 shekel appetizer because I wanted that specific meal. That was my dinner. And I was like, wow, like I would never have gone into this restaurant myself, because it would be too scary and too intimidating to order, to commit to a full meal. And now I get to be, and they're able to enjoy me as a consumer, and I'm able to enjoy this really specific meal that I just really wanted. Everything is being democratized, and I think it's awesome. What I really want to also pick your brain about, Omer, is the onboarding. You mentioned that it took you, within a span of 3 weeks or 10 days, you got 2 huge retailers in Israel. How is the reception from retailers as you're coming to them? Are they surprised? Are they immediately on board? What is sort of the experience you have with them?
It varies so much. I mean, restaurants, whether they did deliveries or not, they know the game. Like it's been around for so long. They understand the math. They would even know us. And I'm not just talking about Israel, I'm talking globally. But for retailers, like we've had discussions where they didn't know us, which was a new thing for us. Like we're like restaurants know us. And we had to go to the room and they're like, oh, okay, who are you? What are you doing? Why is this important? And then there's so many ranges because a lot of players already have their e-commerce solution, but for 4 days delivery or 3 days delivery, right? And it's just a completely different thing. It's a completely different cost. Like everything is so different about that. So there are cases where smaller merchants are like jumping on board because they see an opportunity for them to get on top of this like wagon and to get that democratization that you mentioned, where they could be out there next to like the super famous restaurant and maybe somebody will be exposed and order a flower that from florists that they never heard of or stuff like that. So there's like this super small merchants that are really hungry. Bigger ones, it's a lot more difficult. It's a lot more challenging, and it requires a lot more conviction. Again, looking at those 2 partners like Paz and Bee Farm, their leaders were so amazing and so receptive and so kind of open to the idea and seeing, hey, like they understood, like, hey guys, there's COVID. Like people are going to need these things now.
Right.
So they were also really, really cool. But just to be fair, like most of our cooperations with these kind of partners take many, many months, like to sign, which is another capability that we have to develop as a company, like moving from selling to small businesses to selling to like huge business.
No, I completely agree. And I have to say that, I feel that I'm sort of like already adopting this behavior. What I'm noticing is that when I know that I want something from a store, what I've ended up doing this past few months, both because of COVID, but honestly, because, I think that I'm representing the next generation of consumers, is I call them up, I make the order, I pay, and then I order a get delivery. Unfortunately, it costs a little bit more than Wolt, I guess, would take for that delivery. But but it already makes perfect sense to me. For these 25 shekels, why would I, or $5-6, why would I make this hour-long trip to the store if I know exactly what I want? And I'm assuming that a lot of times we go to a store because we know what we want.
So I fully agree, and that's where we're coming. You're not all the customers. There's a lot of customers that 25 shekels, but by the way, Wolt delivery is a lot cheaper. Like the base is 10 shekels in Israel. And we have a really cheap delivery policy across markets. But putting that aside, let's talk about the example you gave. 25 shekels, 20 shekels. For a lot of people, that's not worth it. That's fine. But there is a growing layer of people that say, hey, I would pay 20 shekels to save an hour of my time without thinking. Like it's not even a thought process. Like Friday morning, in Friday or like Saturday in other markets, you see customers certain like that order from 5 different places, right? So that's how they do their shopping. Like they get up in the morning. This is okay. They got a bakery from here, like bread from the bakery, meat from the butcher shop. Like that's what they do, and it costs them, I don't know, $15 on delivery, but they save 3 hours and they're super happy with it. And we see more and more of these customers, and that's one thing. And another thing is discovery. So I want to buy a gift, right? Like somebody gave birth, somebody has a birthday. I want to buy a gift. Okay, well, gifts, 30 options, 3 clicks, and it's there, right? So that's another thing that we're really working on and starting to see more and more.
That's fantastic. Omer, thank you so much for your time. 20 minutes is not nearly enough to cover this,
I
but
can't believe it's already done.
exactly. That's how I feel every time. Are you ready for 3 fun questions?
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
All right. Favorite subject in school, K to 12?
So it's like Bible, uh, but
Wow.
the reason is like, yeah. But I had the best teacher ever. I was
There
a
you
bit
go.
of a smartass in school, and I was difficult. Like I had good grades. Like I was a good student, but I was a bit of a smartass, and I thought I was smarter than everyone. And
I love it.
she was like she whipped me. Like I was afraid of her. And for her lessons, I was like super quiet, and she taught me a lot as a person. And she taught Bible, and she made it interesting and fun. So my favorite teacher and my favorite subject,
I
Bible.
love it. One of your role models.
I guess that's the biggest cliche ever, but my dad. And the reason is that my dad had an incredible career, like amazing. He was like one of the chief officers in a big bank in Israel, and he worked really hard. But he also gave us everything. Like I never felt that he wasn't there ever. I felt he was there more than he should have. And
Amazing.
that balance for me is amazing. Like being able to work that hard and succeed that much in your life, but also giving your family kind of the sentiment that you're always there for them and supporting them. And I really love my dad. So
I love that. Okay. And 3 words you would use to describe yourself.
I would say versatile, obsessive, and humorous. So I
Wow.
joke like all the time about everything and anything. I'm obsessive. I mean, when I'm thinking about something, I'm not gonna let go for better or worse. And I tried to build my career in this kind of versatile layer of being like a lawyer and having kind of technology background and business. So I guess those are my 3.
Omer, thank you very, very much. This was wonderful. Toda rabba. Stay safe and stay healthy. I can't wait to continue following this amazing journey. It's just incredible. So thank you for the inspiration. Thank you for allowing me to get, food, groceries, pharmacy, and soon everything else that I need in a matter of minutes. And stay safe and stay healthy.
Yeah, so the last one is not me, but I'll thank Walt on your behalf. And again, thank you. It was great fun. So thanks for
Thank you
having me.
very much. Take care. Bye bye.
Cool. Bye bye.